We are back for another edition of the Fight HQ podcast. Of course, I'm Jason Floyd. That is a fighter. Pete Rogers Jr. here to talk UFC Vegas 111. And Pete, we come in here 7 days later. And if I just would have told you, hey, man, you want to know the biggest talking point of UFC Vegas 110? And it'll have nothing to do with fighter winning a fight via TKO.
I know.
Referee calls it off. Fighter B says he's poked in the eye. We go to replay. Replay shows he was poked in the eye. We ask him if he can continue, even though the referee called the fight. And fighter B goes on to win in that round via knockout. And I would go, Pete, and the fact of the fighter who landed the eye poke is Tom Aspinall's teammate, that this would not be the biggest story of UFC Vegas 110.
Yeah, I mean, MMA karma at its best, right? I mean, not even the DFS gods, the MMA gods just sitting there just cackling. Like, it's crazy. And I think it's kind of crazy that it's not headlines, right? Because it was such an interesting dynamic and kind of like uncharted territory before. We've never seen that happen. We've never seen like the review clock. We've seen them go to that. I like that a lot. I do like it where all the officials kind of collaborate and discuss what's going on. And then to make that decision of asking 𝗛𝗲𝐻𝐿 if he's fit to continue after the 5 minutes. And because he is fit to continue, they're going to let the fight resume. And now Mr. 𝐉𝐸𝐻𝐿𝐵, who I had in 100% of my lineups, literally 100%. I had 150 lineups, and I was in a sweet spot. Like, I was like, oh, my God. I have every correlation. Like, it's going to be the best night for me in a very long time. And of course, like, history had to be made that card with my guys on the line. And, whether you talk about an adrenaline dump after thinking you won the fight to now having to go out there and do the same thing, D'Elia should have hopped on him immediately. Just kind of allowed 𝗛𝗲𝐻𝐿BE to throw that fastball of a right hand. And, the MMA gods sitting there laughing and saying, wow, that was just ridiculous. And nobody's talking about it, as you mentioned, Jason. But, props to 𝗛𝗲𝐻𝐿BE. I just keep on counting this guy out, and he just keeps proving me wrong. And 𝗵𝗲𝗄, unfortunately, was on the wrong side of history in that bout.
And lesson to learn about that matchup is that we now know the Nevada State Athletic Commission, they do not use the unified rules of MMA. They have their own set. In a jurisdiction that would have been on unified rules of MMA, the fight would have been no contest because the referee called the fight. And Nevada has their own rules. And, as Gus Johnson likes to say, these things happen in MMA. We saw that happen. I mean, hell, Steve Garcia goes out there and has a hell of a performance. David Onama just looked awful. I mean, I don't know if there's another way to describe it. We're not even talking about that. Of course, you've got the betting controversy. We're going to see what kind of happens. I joked yesterday that I said, you know what, I might just do a parlay and just have the parlay be nothing but favorites on this card because I feel like I might have a really good shot of winning. But, the unfortunate part about what happened last week, I mean, yes, and we joke about it in the Fight HQ Discord channel of, when we see a fighter maybe taking a ton of punishment that we joke like, man, what's the referee got the over 1.5 rounds?
Right.
It's unfortunately, it is going to go in our back of our minds now of when we have a fighter go out there and have a bad performance, not compete the way we think he should compete or she should compete, or referee has a bad night, judges have a bad night. In the back of our head, we're going to go, is there something fishy going on here?
Yeah, and I don't blame people for, being skeptical about the most unpredictable sport in the world with the highest variance. This is just like ridiculous. Like, MMA fighting's tough as it is. Never mind when you have judges getting scorecards wrong or questionable stoppages. I do like to think that the referees and judges are ethical people and are ones that are, trying to keep the sport improving and are there for the correct reasons. But as we've seen in the NBA, an NBA coach and NBA players have been a part of some high-end sports rigging and just some manipulation from a sports betting standpoint, and shaving points and doing all just terrible things. And we saw the Krause situation, and it kind of reared its ugly head in the Dulgarian and 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐻𝐿 fight. And I can't help but criticize just anybody thinking about doing such a thing. I mean, really, it's like, obviously it's life-changing money if people are willing to throw away their ethical and moral values. But it's still like, you're talking about your career, you're talking about jail time, you're talking about a lot of things that it just is not worth it. But you'll see this corruption and everything, right? Like government and anything. I don't think there's any part of the world that is free from corruption and collusion and all this terrible stuff. It's just going to happen. Bad people do bad things, or bad people try to persuade people into doing terrible things. So I hope that more stuff comes out. I hope that there isn't some people that we know and it's deeper, and like I hope it's just some random person, and it's not like a high profile person that's close with the UFC or close with just MMA fighters in general, because it would really leave a bad taste in our mouth.
When you think about nearly 3 years ago to the date of the James Krause, Derek Minner situation, I mean, one thing that did come out this week from Dana White is the fact of, what happened last weekend is going into the same investigation that has been currently going on with the James Krause situation. We'll kind of see how that goes. I mean, I brought this point up yesterday in my podcast of, when the UFC is informed of this situation pre-fight and they talk to Dulgarian, one of the thoughts I kind of had was like, was a commission not involved in this? Because they're the ones regulating the fight. They're the ones pre-running the fight. And so it does make me wonder, going forward, are we going to see potentially a situation where if IC360 informs the UFC of things they are seeing, that maybe we're going to see fights get pulled on fight day? And so obviously that's something that from a DFS perspective, we hate to see, because we can't change those lineups once the lineups are submitted. But of course, we're here to break down UFC Vegas 111. One of the notes right now, weigh-ins currently going on in Las Vegas. Ismael Bonfim has missed weight by 6 pounds, weighing in at 161 pounds. Did not look good on the scale. So we'll see if that fight does go forward. Of course, scheduled to take on Chris Padilla in a 155-pound matchup. And I would tell you this, man, when we talk about the heavyweight matchup that's a part of this fight card, holy hell, I've seen some bad level of competition on the regional scene. Oh, boy, I got to give it to Sucker Punch Entertainment and getting giving us into the UFC. He's had 7 pro fights, Pete. The record of the opponents: 0-0, 0-1, 2-4, 1-3, 6-14, 9-9, and 7-8-1.
It's proof that it just doesn't matter. The UFC does not care. They just care about what your record is. And how many times do we see like fighters that maybe didn't make it on Contender Series? They'll take just any fight, and sometimes it's like, how did the commission even approve this fight? This guy was just on the Contender Series, and now this guy's fighting a Jay Ellis type. And it's just like, that shouldn't be happening when it's, you're going to be getting into the big show. Like, if anything, that's early development within your career, not like, I just need a fight right now, So, I mean, it's crazy to me.
And what scares me about that is I don't know. I just have this fear of rostering a 9,400 fighter, even though he's taking on somebody who has not fought a great level of competition, but he comes in, following, winning on Dana White's Contender Series. You look at Zachary Reese stepping up here on just a couple of days' notice to take on Jackson McVey. Valentin pulling out of this fight at the beginning of this week. And then, initially it was going to be Dante Johnson who was going to step in, have his second fight in 2 weeks. However, he was suspended by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, so unable to take that matchup. So Zachary Reese steps up here to take on Jackson McVey. I mean, because when I think about just looking at the rosters here, main event, Okay, definitely with the 5-round nature of a fight I'm going to want to get to. The co-main event, man, it is, I mean, you know, Matt Schnell returned from retirement earlier this year, but he's a guy that, you know, typically his fights are going to end up being optimal one way or the other, whether he's winning the fight or losing the fight. Uros Medic, I mean, look, we're not big Alaska FC guys, but he has been kind of the anomaly of the Alaska FC guys, of course, training down there in California, taking on Muslim Salikhov. And, you know, Salikhov, I just feel like I cannot get his fights right. He's just one of those guys I just feel like when I'm on him, he can't pull it off. When he loses, not on him. You look at Ricky Simon, Hani Barcelos. Barcelos very quietly has now won 3 in a row. Tisha Pennington, I mean, Jesus Christ. I haven't even looked at what the over 2.5 rounds is. I can only imagine how juiced that number is when we're talking about her. You know, Hyder, Amil, Jamall, Emmers, I think could sneakily potentially be a fight we have to circle just because of the volatility in that one.
I think you need that fight, buddy.
Any other fights I didn't mention that stick out to you?
I mean, for me, right? Like, I don't know if you noticed, but I got distracted. My mom's cat just like started climbing up my back, and I'm like, "What the hell's going on?" So, I'm not a big cat guy at all. I love dogs. But you know, I think the value on some of these fighters makes the underdogs a little interesting to me, just because I don't agree with the betting lines, and I can't wait to see if you agree with me or not. I absolutely love the upside of Josh Hockett, not sure how he says his name. Really interested in that fight. The Hyder Amil and Jamall Emmers, the 8,200, 8,000 fight, typically is one that we need. And just the way that Hyder fights and the uncertainty surrounding him coming off and getting knocked out, and mixed with Jamall Emmers kind of being able to get broken over time, I don't see how that fight doesn't smash, truthfully. Really excited. I don't know if you agree with me, but probably my most exciting prospect, if you want to call him that, on the card, I'm really interested in seeing Marco Tulio again. Like, I think this guy's nasty. I think that he is so damn good. And the way that he's been putting on a clinic early on, scoring 113 and then 144. I mean, this guy has looked absolutely like a ranked fighter. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, that Jamall Emmers and Hyder Amil fight, I think will naturally have a ton of ownership. And I think the pace of the fight is why I definitely want to get to it. Also,
to me, the price points on DK in comparison to what the current betting lines are. I mean, I pulled all the betting lines from the Hard Rock Sportsbook. I mean, just the amount of fights that we have where the favorite is minus 190 and then the underdog is plus 150, plus 155. Just give you perspective. Like the first fight of the night, which Daniel Marcos priced at 9,100, he's minus 190. Miles Johns, of course, this is a replacement fight, 7,700, he's plus 155. You look over at the Ricky Simon, Hani Barcelos fight. Simon priced at 8,400, he's minus 190. 7,800 for Barcelos at plus 155. I mean, literally, you have the same odds there in the main event where Bonfim is 8,600 and Randy Brown is 7,600. So kind of just so weird because obviously with some of these opponent changes, Adrian Yanez was supposed to be on this card. His opponent pulls out. Apparently there was an opponent that was trying to get the matchup. Yanez said he would take the fight, but for whatever reason, the fight just did not come together. So if you do got any questions, line those up right now. You can do that if you're watching us live on YouTube. Also, you can do that in Discord as well. Of course, you can get the link to Pete's Patreon page to get all the tools that he does have. A link to is in the bio for that one. Of course, you can get Pete's algorithm and the sheets that he puts together to help build your DFS lineups. But let's get right into breaking this one down. The main event will be in the welterweight division. Both fighters have already made weight. That is Gabriel Bonfim and Randy Brown. Gabriel Bonfim priced at 8,600 on DK, $18 on FanDuel. Randy Brown priced at 7,600 on DK, $16 on FanDuel. Bonfim just under a 2-1 betting favorite, minus 190, plus 150 here for Randy Brown. Bonfim has won 3 in a row, 5-1. in the UFC. First time he has. By the way, this will be the second straight week we have a main event, whereas the first UFC main event for both fighters. By the way, Randy Brown's been in the UFC since 2016.
Yeah,
he's now. Yeah, it's taken him 9 years to get into the main event, but it's a UFC Apex card, so we really shouldn't be surprised by that one. By the way, the last time the Gabriel Bonfim had a 5-round fight, scheduled 5-round fight, that was back in 2022 in an LFA title fight for Randy Brown. This, by the way, even though he had title fights on the regional scenes, those were not scheduled for 5 rounds. They were 3 rounds or 4-round fights. So this is his first scheduled 5-round fight in his career. He does have a 6-inch reach advantage in this one. And, you know, Pete, when you look at the tail of the tape and just kind of outside of the reach advantage, both these guys are very similar in terms of their stats.
Yeah, they are very similar. And admittedly, I'm a pretty big Randy Brown fan. Like, I like Randy Brown a lot. Always seem to root for him. It's not that I'm not a Gabriel Bonfim fan, but I find ways to pick against him. You know, he's shown me some tendencies that I'm not too fond of. He's shown me some green characteristics. He's still pretty young within his career. I mean, he has 7 years younger than Randy Brown and a ridiculous amount of UFC experience in favor of Randy Brown. So, you know, naturally, I am a little intrigued by the underdog here in Randy Brown. Randy has 8 inches in the height plus reach department. I think Randy's going to do everything he can to keep this fight standing. It's no secret. And I think that Gabriel Bonfim, while he's aggressive, it's kind of like he's just trying to sell it to his opponent that he wants to strike when in reality he doesn't. He just wants to set up his takedowns and to get you to really respect his hands to open up an attempt to get you to the mat. Whether he is throwing up, you know, guillotine chokes, or whether he is, you know, putting together very, very dynamic takedowns, like, you know, good body locks, overall explosive athlete. I have concerns about if this fight gets extended. We've already seen him break in the 3rd round when the going got tough. Not to mention that I think, you know, Randy Brown could do a pretty good job of keeping this fight upright. And in a kickboxing matchup, I favor Randy Brown. Obviously, there are some chin issues surrounding Randy Brown within his career. I mean, he's been knocked out before. He's been hurt countless times. But, you know, I like what Randy Brown brings to the table. Just a very good jab, you know, well-educated fighter. And it's one where against a fighter in Gabriel Bonfim, who I do think is good, I just think I will be a little bit more matchup driven when I want to back him. I'm not so sure that I love it in this spot against Randy Brown. I mean, obviously the ceiling for a ridiculous amount of takedowns is there for Gabriel Bonfim, and it's possible. I think that Randy Brown, this cat's trying to kill me, Jason. I think Randy Brown is I think Randy Brown's going to be my pick, Jason. Help me out.
You're definitely having some studio issues there in the home base for you there. I mean, you know, the one thing I've looked at this fight and look at you from a betting perspective, you know, Bonfim inside distance -105. You know, I do look at the decision props if I'm looking at prop game hunting on this one. Plus 525 for Bonfim, plus 500 for Randy Brown. You know, I do favor Bonfim in this matchup, but I think it's closer than it's a close fight for me. But I am going to side with Gabriel Bonfim in this one. But from a DFS perspective, definitely do not mind getting to get to Randy Brown in this situation. Matt over in the chat saying the cat is picking Bonfim in this one, Pete, as Pete gets kind of squared away with what's going on over there. But yeah, we'll see what happens in terms of that one. Of course, as always, appreciate everyone tuning in for this episode of the Fight HQ podcast. Of course, be sure to hit a thumbs up on this video. And of course, if you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the Fight HQ channel right here on YouTube. Also, you can check out the audio version of the podcast.
Only me, Jason. What the hell is going on? Only me. Like, it's always something, dude. Can I just do my fucking podcast?
Apparently, the cat is not an MMA fan.
Well, so my mom's having issues at her house. So my mom lives with us right now, right? So she's living with us right now. And this cat, for whatever reason, has declared my chair as where she sleeps. So I don't know why, But this computer chair that has been breaking on me for years is where the cat like has marked her territory. So God forbid I'm sitting in my own damn chair in my own damn house. But yeah, that's what's going on.
Yeah, as I mentioned, if you do want to check out the show on the audio side, you got Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart. You can also check out the video version on Spotify as well. Samuel, appreciate your super chat. We will get to your super chat when we get into the questions portion of the episode. The co-main event will be in the flyweight division. We got Matt Schnell taking on Joseph Morales. One of the biggest favorites on this card. Actually, he's the second biggest favorite on this card. He's minus 425 on the betting lines. Price of 9,300 DK, $21 on FanDuel. Matt Schnell, price of 6,900 DK, $9 on FanDuel. He enters this fight as a plus 325 betting underdog. Of course, second fight for Matt Schnell since unretiring, coming off that decision win against Jimmy Flick back in April. All of his 7 UFC losses have come via stoppage. Looking for back-to-back wins for the first time since 2019. Joseph Morales, he's now in his second stint in the UFC after getting back into the UFC following a recent season of the Ultimate Fighter. He's coming in off a win in August, which he was a plus 365 underdog in there, and he is a Team Alpha Male product, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty simple, right? I mean, like Matt Schnell has had one foot in the cage and one foot out for quite some time now. It's kind of hard for me to back Matt Schnell with any conviction or any confidence because I just don't believe that he's in his prime anymore, nor do I think that he's of the same skill level as Morales in 2025. You know what Matt Schnell is. He's got a good boxing skill set to him. Not the best defense, pretty damn hittable. Will get taken down, will play jiu-jitsu off of his back, live to get knocked out in any moment from an overhand. I just don't believe in the skill set. Like he's had some really nice wins, like the Sumer 𝗲𝐁𝐺 fight was awesome. One where he was knocked out on his feet multiple times, but was able to come back and put together one of the best come from behind victories in the history of the UFC. So his triangle and his guard game is always alive to pull off an upset also. But I think Morales, goes right through him here. Whether he takes him down or he outboxes him, I just think that Morales has the fresher legs in 2025. And I'm going to agree with the line. At 9,300, I just don't see, I like Morales quite a bit. The only thing is when you have a wrestler going up against, a jiu-jitsu fighter, I don't necessarily know if, Morales will be so keen to want to take him down.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I look at this one, Pete, is I always find myself in a hard position of, do I really want to prioritize a flyweight matchup just because of, it just seems like more times than not, they're not going to end up in an optimal lineup, but it's a Matt Schnell fight. And so that's where I kind of look at it and say, man, like, I feel like I got to put some type of priority on this matchup of sitting there and saying, okay, can I get to a 9,300 Joseph Morales? Do I feel confident that he's going to be able to use his takedown? This is a guy who's been at Team Alpha Male all of his life. I mean, he went to Joseph Benavidez wrestling camps when he was a kid. So, I mean, this is, or younger in his life. So to me, I can't pick Matt Schnell. I mean, plain and simple. I can't pick him. I don't trust. I mean, you talk about fighters you don't trust. Matt Schnell to me, but if you sit there and say, hey, I need to find some type of punt play, I get why you go to Matt Schnell, but you're going to feel dirty about it. You're not going to feel good. I mean, maybe the only thing you feel good about it is it's co-main event, so maybe it keeps your lineups alive a little bit longer, but to me, it's take Joseph Morales or move on in this situation. And, looking at the betting side, I mean, I don't really love any of the Morales props. Inside distance minus 130, plus 160 to win be a sub, plus 240. I mean, if I want to take a sprinkle on this fight, I might just say screw it. Let me just play Schnell wins by 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐜𝐿 plus 1750.
So I'll tell you, I think if you are looking to back Matt Schnell, you could be looking at Morales's early run and early fights in the UFC and saying like, wow, his stats look bad. So like Schnell's going up against a guy who on paper has a 28% takedown defensive rating. That looks terrible. That looks like a window or a path for Matt Schnell to have some success. But I don't think that's the same fighter that Morales is in 2025.
Yeah.
So like those stats, you can throw those out the window in my opinion, and that's why like I think Morales in 2025 will be able to hurt Schnell on the feet, take him down, and just stay safe. You know what Schnell brings to the game. He's got a great triangle, and he's going to try to throw up submissions if he does get taken down. Outside of that, he's a pitter-patter boxer, and I think that Morales will be wise to it. So, like you said, it's a Matt Schnell fight, so it's flyweight. But because he's at 9,300, I will have a decent amount of ownership.
Yeah. By the way, just kind of note, right now is Bonfim is the only fighter to miss weight for this one. Everyone else did make weight, weighing in 161 pounds. So we'll kind of have to wait and see to see if whether that fight is actually going to happen or not. So something to pay attention to over the next 24 hours or so. Next up, let's move over to the welterweight division. Got Muslim Salikhov taking on Uros 𝗛𝐻. 𝗛𝐻 priced at $8,800 on DK, $18 on FanDuel, minus 165 betting favorite. Salikhov priced at $7,400 DK, $12 on FanDuel. He is plus 135. Salikhov pretty much a 500 fighter in the UFC, 5-4 in the UFC. All of his UFC wins have come either by TKO, KO, or decision. He's won 3 straight, and his last 2 wins have come in the first round. Uros 𝗛𝐻 5-3 in the UFC. 5 of his 8 UFC fights have ended in the first round. Only been to the third round once in the UFC, and for the most part, we really don't like to back Alaska FC fighters, but Uros 𝗛𝐻 has been one of those guys you actually do want to back at times, Pete.
Yeah, 𝗛𝐻 is not bad, and Alaska FC really is a promotion that we don't hold in high regard at all for good reason. But I think Uros 𝗛𝐻, it's tough because on one hand, in one performance, he looks great, and then he gets crumpled in another. I think anybody who's super physical, 𝗛𝐻 will struggle. And I don't really view Salikhov as that type of guy. I think this is a prototypical striker versus striker matchup, one where 𝗛𝐻 can be a long southpaw going up against the master of the king of kung fu in Salikhov, and I think they're both going to have success. If you look at the stats, you'll notice that Salikhov throws or lands 3.39 significant strikes landed per minute, whereas Uros 𝗛𝐻 lands 5.47 significant strikes landed per minute. So more volume from Uros 𝗛𝐻. He's a longer fighter. The flashy techniques will belong to Salikhov. And, I think that, early he's dangerous to honestly knock out Uros 𝗛𝐻. We've seen 𝗛𝐻 hurt in the past, and we've seen Salikhov fire a bomb overhand and just crumple his opponents, and did that to Carlos Leal. I think the youth, 9 years younger than Salikhov and still having 3 inches in the height and reach department, will make 𝗛𝐻 the better fighter over 15 minutes. He just has to be very careful of what Salikhov brings to the table. Super tricky, dynamic kickboxer and kung fu fighter in Salikhov. And, this is one where I don't really have a ton of conviction. 𝗛𝐻 is going to go out there and obliterate Salikhov, because I just don't see that. The only person to do that is Randy Brown, and Randy Brown crumpled Salikhov. 𝗛𝐻 to me doesn't have that same dynamite. He has more like a long southpaw with just some dynamic skills, but no thunderous pop. And I think he's not going to be too comfortable early on to let his hands absolutely rip, because Salikhov is going to be returning fire. And truthfully, I think that Salikhov, from a strategic standpoint, I would not be surprised to see him attempt some takedowns to get 𝗛𝐻 on his back. We've seen Salikhov, land 1.08 takedowns per 15 minutes with 32% takedown accuracy. Means he's attempting almost 3.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. And we know 𝗛𝐻 is not the same guy on his back. So this is one where I think the longer the fight goes, the more it favors 𝗛𝐻. Salikhov is live at 7,400, especially on the heater that he's been. But I will still slightly favor Uros 𝗛𝐻, and I think the odds are correct. I'm going to favor Uros 𝗛𝐻 to pull off either a late finish or a decision over Muslim Salikhov.
When you look at that lower end 7K range, Salikhov may be the fighter that intrigues you the most with what the fantasy score upside could be, Pete.
Yeah, I think from a finish standpoint, he's put together some finishes when I've counted him out, and we've seen Medic get crumpled by big shots in the past. So 7,400, I think it's a little disrespectful. And considering Medic is only a minus, when I made the sheet, minus 155, according to DraftKings Sportsbook, when I made the sheet, and he's 8,800, it just seems like the odds are right, but the salaries are a little wide. Like I was expecting kind of like an 8,400 price tag or an 8,500 price tag on Medic, and he just seems a little expensive to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think because we have so many fights that are all in that same betting range, I think that's why we've kind of created some weird odds this week here. Next up, we got a matchup that we'll see whether or not it's going to happen. Was a scheduled lightweight matchup, clearly not going to be a lightweight matchup, as Ismael Bonfim has weighed in at 161 pounds for a 155-pound fight. Of course, got to get to 156. So clearly he's not going to get to 156. So probably it's a question of, will the doctors with Nevada State Athletic Commission clear him? And B, can there become an agreement between him and Padilla's camp in terms of the weight miss? And Padilla is the better underdog here. Price is $7,200 DK, $11 on FanDuel, plus 155 betting underdog, plus 150 betting underdog. Bonfim price at $9,018 on FanDuel. He is minus 190 in this situation. Chris Padilla 3-0 in the UFC, coming off a split decision win back in March versus 𝗏𝗲𝐻𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐵𝐻. Bonfim 2-2 in the UFC. He's alternating wins and losses in the UFC. He is coming off a first-round stoppage loss due to a cut versus Nazim Salikhov back in February, Pete.
Yeah, so to me personally, I think that this is a strategic move. I really do think that this is a strategic move, just because I think Padilla's best path to victory is by getting Ismael Bonfim on the ground or pinning him against the cage. And this could be a situation where Bonfim wanted to come in with a weight advantage or wanted to nullify the gap in skill when it comes to the wrestling or the jiu-jitsu standpoint. So I think Ismael Bonfim's well-rounded, right? But his brother, Gabriel Bonfim, is definitely more of the grappler, whereas Ismael Bonfim is more of the striker or the fighter that enjoys striking more for prolonged periods of time. We've seen Ismael Bonfim get kind of ragdolled and taken down by Benoit Saint-Denis, and he was submitted in the first round. And then we've seen Vince Pichel take him down. And this is a situation where I do think that Padilla, although he didn't go to the well as much as I wanted him to, and in his previous matchup against 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐵, and actually he didn't go to it at all. I was very, very disappointed with that performance. I think it's one where Padilla should look to target against Ismael Bonfim. So Padilla at 7,200, I think, is an underdog to circle, because you never know about a weight miss. You don't know if somebody's sick. We hear it all the time. I came into this fight with a torn ACL or torn this and that. I just needed it to pay my bills, and the odds don't always adjust. And this is a situation where I think that Ismael Bonfim on the feet is a fighter that I do prefer over Padilla. I think that Padilla is, he's dangerous from a finishing standpoint, but I'm not as skilled as Bonfim. And that 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐵 fight really, really just left a bad taste in my mouth. And it's one where I was big on Padilla, and he kind of let me down. So I'll be picking Ismael Bonfim here at 8,000. I think he'll be able to keep it on the feet, and whether I think he's going to win a decision over Padilla. And Padilla is really, really tough and been around the game for a long time. But yeah, Bonfim seems to have the advantage in the striking department. I mean, 5.73 significant strikes landed per minute compared to Padilla's 4.13. It's similar in a way, but the defense for Ismael Bonfim sits at 70%, whereas Padilla, in only a small sample size, sits at 57%. So yeah, I'll be taking Ismael Bonfim here at 9,000, but I'm not sure he's the greatest DFS play. If anybody's a DFS play, it would probably be the underdog Padilla.
And according to the on-site reporter for MMA Junkie at the weigh-ins, Ken Hathaway, fight is going to proceed, a 25% fine for Ismael Bonfim. But even though, as we sit here on a Friday afternoon saying the fight is going to continue, something you definitely have to monitor going into Saturday and probably be, sticking around probably in the 3 p.m. Eastern time hour to maybe see if there is any news on whether this fight will actually proceed or not. Next up, we got a middleweight matchup. It's Christian Leroy Duncan taking on Marco Tulio. Tulio priced at $8,700 on DK, $16 on FanDuel. He's minus 190. Duncan priced at $7,500 on DK, $13 on FanDuel. He is at plus 150. Duncan's won back-to-back and 4 of 5. 4 of his 5 UFC wins have come by TKO and KO, and both of his UFC losses have come via decision. He will have a 5-inch reach advantage in this. Tulio, 2-0 in the UFC. Pete mentioned earlier in the show about the scores that he's had over on DraftKings, 100-plus points in both of his UFC matchups. Was initially supposed to fight back in August against 𝗛𝐻𝐻𝐻, pulled out of that fight. Now here to take on Duncan, Pete.
Yeah, I really like Tulio here. I have to tell you, I think that the odds at 8,700 for a guy who's been on an absolute heater, I like it. I think it's a nice value spot. I mean, he scored 113 against Poteria, 144 against Tresean Gore, which was unbelievable. 127 significant strikes landed, 2 knockdowns, and finished him in the second round. I mean, against Ihor Poteria, 29 significant strikes and knockdown, finished him in the first round. So Marco Tulio, even on the Contender Series, I mean, like he's shown just a high level skill set in the striking department. Not only that, I think that he does have some wrestling in his back pocket, as evidenced against Yusri Belgaru. He landed 2 takedowns, and we just saw what Yusri Belgaru just did to Azamat Bakoyev a couple of cards ago. So this is a situation where, Christian Leroy Duncan's been a prospect or a fighter that we've circled and we've bet and we've put him in a ton of lineups because, the hype is ridiculous on this guy. Very dynamic, super patient fighter. And this is one where I think he may be too patient. And this could be I think that Tulio is very aggressive and with an equal skill set going up against a guy who is very patient and a little low output. So, Tulio just seems to jump off the page when I'm looking at the stats. 7.54 significant strikes landed per minute compared to Christian Leroy Duncan's 4.83. So, Tulio's attempting 12.5 per minute. And, I just think that CLD sometimes doesn't get out of first gear, and Tulio sitting there banging gears and ready to finish the fight as soon as he starts to land a couple shots. So, Tulio's got all the hype and all the respect from me. Christian Leroy Duncan going from massive favorites in the past to an underdog does mean something. And this is one where we could still be early on a prospect or a future ranked fighter in Marco Tulio. And, I'm willing to think that he's the more well-rounded fighter. And when I look at Christian Leroy Duncan's performances, the Eric Anders fight, he finished him, but that's the shell of Eric Anders. And, we won with that, but again, not really all that impressive. The Andre Polyayev fight, okay, that was fine. That was a solid performance. The Gregory Rodriguez fight was a ridiculous step up in competition. So, I think this is going to be really good. And because I've seen Marco Tulio go up there against Yusri Belgaru, I already know that he can handle a high-level striker. So, Tulio at 8,700. I'm probably going to increase my exposure to him. And hopefully, he doesn't tax himself, hunting a finish and not getting it and then gets knocked out or something like that. But this fight in general does seem like we need it because the way that Tulio fights.
The one question I would say I would have about this matchup, Pete, I don't know if you have the same thoughts, is what happens if Duncan can, make this fight into a longer matchup, just because we haven't seen that with Tulio, that inside the UFC. That would be kind of something that just comes to my mind here. But Tulio does look like a guy that we're going to have to pay attention to in terms of what he can do, and maybe he becomes the first guy to stop Christian Leroy Duncan inside the UFC. Next up, I've seen, so on the ESPN MMA website, this is listed in this spot of the lineup. I've seen on other sites it's listed as the first fight of the night, so not quite sure exactly, but we're going to talk about it right here. It's a matchup that came together this week. Zachary Reese taking on Jackson McVey. Zachary Reese is priced at 9,100 DK, no price over on FanDuel, minus 300 betting favorite. McVey priced at 7,900 DK, $13 on FanDuel. He is at plus 235. Of course, initially, McVey was going to take on 𝗷𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿. Valentin pulled out of this matchup, so Reese takes this fight here on less than about 5 days' notice of when he took this fight here. This will be his first fight since September, which was the no contest against Rick Dumas, who somehow is still in the UFC. I'm blown away by that. Of course, when you think about Zach Reese, primarily you look at all those first-round finishes, does have 2 fights going the distance in the UFC. McVey lost his UFC debut back in July, which was a first-round submission loss of Bruno Ferreira. And, I bring this, and there's a couple fighters there's at least 2 or 3 fighters on this card you can bring this case up to, is I think sometimes I do wonder about if a fighter potentially got to the UFC too early, didn't get enough development on the regional scene. And I think there's an argument that could be made that Jackson McVey is one of those guys that maybe should have gotten more experience on the regional scene and face a higher level of competition.
Yeah, 100%, man. And a lot of times people just want to make it to the promotion. They, and then they can always say that they made it to the promotion, which is still a huge accomplishment. But I do think that staying in the promotion or being a long-standing part of the promotion means more, right? So you don't just want to get there, you want to stay there. So I do think that, Jackson McVey is very, very green when it comes to overall MMA experience. I think that he has skills. He has a nice high kick. I think that his hands are a little clunky. I think that his jiu-jitsu is solid. But, you're going up against some of the best in the world. That's what the UFC is. So, Zachary Reese saw this opportunity. He goes, yeah, I'll take that fight. And I think that Reese is clearly way better than McVey. And I agree with the odds. Minus 330 for Reese, plus 240 for McVey, 9,100 for Reese, 7,900 for McVey. If McVey is still 7,900, I haven't even looked. He has to be, right? That is not like pound for pound. That's one of the worst values on the slate because he's a plus 240 at 7,900. So immediately that's going to increase the leverage of rostering him because it just makes absolutely no sense. I mean, if I'm looking at another plus 240 on the card, let's see. Let's look at a plus 210 when I made the sheet is Mayra Bueno Silva. She's priced at 7,000. So he's even a bigger underdog and he's priced at 7,900. It's broken if you're trying to roster Jackson McVey. I really do think that, Zachary Reese has solid Muay Thai, excellent guard off of his back, and just now UFC experience. I think that they are very similar in a way. McVey definitely not nearly as explosive. And I think that Reese will go to the takedowns if he wants to. 2.82 takedowns land per 15 minutes, 58% accuracy means it's almost 5 takedowns attempted in a 15-minute fight. The data and the stats for McVey from the one fight in the UFC are terrible, and it's a small sample size, but 1.12 significant strikes landed per minute compared to Reese's 4.24. I can't even really look at those stats because it just doesn't tell you the whole picture, but watch some tape on Reese, and I think that Reese, as long as he's in shape, I think that he wins this fight pretty easily. So I would expect that he at one point finds a finish over McVey, whether it's via ground and pound or via a submission. Honestly, he can hurt McVey standing up too, but I do think that there is a larger gap on the mat than anything, and I'll be picking Zachary Reese as long as he doesn't get head kicked. So 9,100 Zachary Reese.
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of looking at the ownership projections for DraftKings, and I was actually surprised to see that McVey wasn't lower just because of what the price point is at 7,900. You're definitely going to get some leverage on the field in that aspect, but for me, it's just not a route I want to go down. I mean, I'll never forget talking to Zach Reese after he had his first decision in the UFC, because we all knew what the narrative was around him at that time was, oh, is this guy just a first-round guy, and he said, he goes, look, I wanted to fight 3 rounds. He's like, I wanted to get some cage time in there.
Yep.
And and that's not, I mean, look, that's something you always don't hear a fighter really discuss. You always hear a fighter say, hey, I'm not paid to fight for 15 minutes. I'm paid to fight, however quick I can get out of there. But that is something that has always stuck with me when thinking about Zachary Reese. Next up, let's move over to a featherweight matchup. It's Hyder Amil taking on Jamall Emmers. This is your 𝐉𝐴�200 8,000 fight. Amil being the 𝐉200 fighter, priced at $15 on FanDuel, -150 betting fair for Emmers, $14 on FanDuel, $8,000 on DK. He is a +120 betting underdog. Hyder Amil, 3-1 in the UFC. 3 of his 4 UFC fights have ended via stoppage. He is coming off a 26-second loss in June against Jose Delgado. Emmers, a 500 fighter in the UFC, 4-4. He's coming off a first-round TKO against Gabriel Miranda back there in March. Was initially scheduled to take on Austin Bashi on this fight card, but Bashi pulled out of the event. His last 3 fights, Pete, have ended in the opening round.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. This is a very interesting matchup, and I kind of mentioned it already. I'm probably going to have 50-50 on this fight just because I view this fight as a GPP priority. The way that I'm seeing this fight go, the pressure style of Hyder Amil, the grappling upside of Jamall Emmers, the clean boxing. It just the salaries do not really they are not at the correct spots because the pace of this fight is the second highest on the card, according to my metric, and I would probably say that it should be first. Just the way that Hyder fights and the way that Jamall Emmers will mix everything up. Now, we don't know how Hyder Amil is going to react to his first knockout defeat to Delgado. Prior to that, had victories over Gomis, Lee, Garcia, and Sonmez. Jamall Emmers, on the flip side, has fought the better strength of schedule in the past 5. I mean, I can name these guys, and a lot of them are going to ring a bell, and you're going to say, wow, those names definitely hold more weight than what Hyder Amil has fought. Gabriel Miranda, Nate Landwehr, Bazookia, Jenkins, and 𝗏𝐻𝐿. So I think that Emmers, his experience, could really, really shine through here against a raw green prospect in Hyder Amil, who could possibly be facing some confidence issues coming off of getting knocked out. Maybe he's a little gun shy compared to the past, or maybe he goes out there reckless again and he just gets clipped. One way or another, though, when I'm looking at these stats and I'm looking at what they bring to the table, Hyder Amil, 6.84 significant strikes landed per minute compared to Jamall Emmers, 5.45. Based on the accuracy from both of them, you're having Hyder Amil attempting 12 per minute and Jamall Emmers attempting 11 per minute. And then when we look at the takedown department, Hyder Amil, 0.77 takedowns landed per 15 minutes with 20% accuracy, is almost 4 takedowns in a 15-minute fight, whereas Jamall Emmers sits at 1.74 takedowns per 15 minutes with 40% accuracy, which is a little over 4 takedowns attempted in a 15-minute fight. So just volume. There's volume everywhere in all areas. And if this does go 15 minutes, it's not one where it's like, oh, it went the distance. I don't think they're going to score well. I just think there's so much stuff in this matchup, or so much that each fighter brings to the table, from output, from countering, from grappling, from everything, that the price point of 𝐉𝐴�200 and 8,000. I'm not gonna avoid it. I'm just not. Some weeks I'm a little hesitant. I'm not all that hesitant this week. So, the way I'm viewing this, though, is I don't want to really hold that loss from against Delgado over Amil's head too much. He got hit with a big shot against one of the biggest fighters within the division. The same thing could happen here against Jamall Emmers, because Emmers cracks with a piston right hand. Very good jab also. But from a firepower standpoint, I don't see the same threat. Whereas what Delgado brings to the table, Delgado had Nathaniel Wood on skates early too. So I'm gonna go with Hyder Amil in this matchup, just a very slight lean, because I do think that the pressure style can eventually get to Jamall Emmers. We've seen pressure kind of break him over the course of 15 minutes in the past. We've seen guys that can really just tax Jamall Emmers and just make him work, and it slows him down. And fatigue is everybody's worst enemy. And I do think that Hyder Amil gets stronger as the fight goes on. So I'm going to slightly lean with Hyder Amil, but like I told you guys, from a construction standpoint, I want 100% of this fight, and I'll go down with the ship if it doesn't happen. But 100% of this fight is how I'm gonna approach this slate.
Yeah, I've always been a big Hyder Amil guy. I mean, you watch him fight. I mean, you can tell that he is trained by Guillermo Melendez, has that same type of fighting style. So we'll see how this one goes here for him. Next up, we go into the bantamweight division. It'll be Ricky Simón taking on Hani Barcelos. Simón priced at 8,400 DK, $15 on FanDuel. He's minus 190. Barcelos, he's priced at 7,800 DK, $14 on FanDuel. He is a plus 155. Betting underdog, Ricky Simón's won back-to-back fights following a 3-fight losing streak. He's coming off a decision win in June against Cameron Smotherland. Of course, more times than not, over a 50% clip of going the distance inside the UFC. Barcelos, he's won 3 in a row, last 2 come by decision. His last win came back in June against Cody Garbrandt. That was following the win against Peyton Talbot. And Barcelos at 38 years old, the old guard is still picking up wins here in the UFC, Pete.
Yeah, he is, and he's really been surprising me because when, you just have this like idea of how old somebody is, and like it's really not even fair because he's still going out there and just proving everybody that he can still compete at this level. I mean, Ricky Simón has 5 years on Barcelos, and this is a situation where in a normal fight against 2 not so good wrestlers, I'd be really smashing exposure to both of them because I would think that the takedown upside is tremendous. I don't think people understand how damn good of a wrestler Hani Barcelos is, and Ricky Simón is the same. So when I'm looking at the takedowns landed per 15 minutes, 5.01 for Ricky Simón, 2.33 for Hani Barcelos, both with pretty poor accuracy, translates to 11 attempted for Simón and 7 attempted for Barcelos. They both have phenomenal takedown defense, 85% for Barcelos and 75% for Ricky Simón. And I really don't think they're even going to want to go to the takedowns all that much because they're going to respect each other's wrestling. I think it's going to be a striking match, and this is going to mainly be a boxing match and one where, the firepower of Ricky Simón can end it. We saw what happened against Basharat. Like that big overhand right is live to knock anybody out. A big left hook is live to knock anybody out. But Barcelos, outside of getting knocked out by Nurmagomedov, it's just he seems to be the better striker or the better boxer here. So 4.87 significant strikes landed per minute for Hani Barcelos compared to Ricky Simón's 2.93. It's kind of how I'm seeing this fight go, Jason. And just because I don't have faith that either one of them are going to be successful with takedowns, like truthfully, I'm sure they're going to land some, but not their typical. I'm going to back the slight underdog here in Hani Barcelos. And I know that could really surprise a lot of people, but don't let looks fool you. I just think like striking wise, boxing wise, Hani Barcelos, outside of getting knocked out, I think that he's probably the better boxer here. And this is a situation where I just don't think there's going to be much wrestling or much success with the wrestling. So give me Hani Barcelos as my first not my first, one of my second underdog here at 7,800.
One of the things for me is I kind of feel like Ricky Simón is kind of falling in love with his hands. With not going that wrestling route, that's kind of concern for me. I mean, if you told me that, Ricky was going to go out there and, he was going to, I'm taking him, I'm not worried about jiu-jitsu. I'm just going to take this dude down, try to beat him up. I think I'd have a lot of interest in Ricky Simón. But right now, you look at what Barcelos has done, kind of hard to bet against him at this point in terms of what he has been doing. Next up, we got a women's bantamweight matchup. Bueno Silva taking on Jacqueline. Jacqueline is a minus 260 betting favorite, price at 9,200 on DK, $21 on FanDuel. Silva price at 7,000 DK, $8 on FanDuel. She's a plus 210 betting underdog. She is 0-3 with 1 no contest in her last 4 fights. Has not won a fight since 2023. That was against Lena Landsberg. But 4 out of 5 UFC wins have come via submission. Jacqueline on the other side, 4-0 in the UFC, and well, all decision wins, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, this is a situation where like Mayra Bueno Silva has all the name value in the world. She's 10-5 overall in MMA, and Jacqueline Cavalcanti is 9-1. So this is a typical old school matchmaking of the changing of the guard. Is Cavalcanti ready to take that next step? Because if she is just like a deer in headlights, this is one where Bueno Silva's name or just the image of her could get in her head and she could end up losing to Bueno Silva. I think Cavalcanti is the real deal, Jason. I really do. I think that the strikes are clearly in favor for Jacqueline Cavalcanti. Mayra Bueno Silva's always worked on her boxing and American Top Team, but it hasn't translated to phenomenal success. 5.73 significant strikes landed per minute for Jacqueline Cavalcanti compared to Mayra Bueno Silva's 3.83. And then I think Bueno Silva's best when she's able to utilize her jiu-jitsu, but when you have no takedowns or poor takedowns, how are you going to get the fight there? Oh, so you're counter grappling. Okay, well, not everybody's going to want to initiate grappling with you. Not everybody's going to leave their head out there for you to ninja choke them or for you to throw up a Hail Mary armbar. Those things could happen, but I don't foresee Cavalcanti doing that. And like I've bet on Mayra Bueno Silva countless times, and I'm not doing it for this matchup. I mean, the no contest against Holm now. The loss to Pennington, Chiasson, and Jesuda Vicious. Meanwhile, Cavalcanti is on a heater, winning over Farron, Nunes, Cornell, and Julia Villa. Definitely not the same level of competition, but this is why you pair these two up. Is Cavalcanti a part of the conversation of the rising prospects, or is she just, this is a little too much too soon? I think Cavalcanti's ready. I think she pulls it off. I think at 9,200, she goes out there and she just puts together a better performance than Mayra Bueno Silva and just outstrikes her for 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's just I can't have much investment behind Bueno Silva. I just, she's clearly fighting for her spot on the UFC roster tomorrow, but I think Cavalcanti will get the job done. Then we got a debuting matchup in the heavyweight division of Josh, who's 6-0, taking on Max, who is 6-1. Of course, Josh won on the Contender Series last month. Price at $9,400 on DK, $22 on FanDuel. He's a minus 450 betting favorite. Max, $6,800 on DK, $8 on FanDuel. He is plus 350. Josh Holkett is a product of Jackson Wink. All of his wins have come via stoppage. Max Gimis, we talked about this earlier on the show, just absolute poor level of competition. It's one of those things that I'd be interested to know. Did you actively seek those fights, or could you not find opponents? It's kind of odd for the UFC to take him in. Probably took him in because he's a heavyweight, just because a heavyweight is a very it's not a lot of depth across mixed martial arts in it. But man, this is just one of those ones where I can't roster Max. I'm just telling you that straight up. Based on that level of competition, I just can't do it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, strength of schedule means a lot, right? I will say that Jimenez, he has jiu-jitsu to him. He's a pretty solid jiu-jitsu practitioner. If he's able to locate an arm or capture the neck from a Holkett who gets tired, or a Holkett that, bellies down instead of, working his way back up, a Holkett that gives up his back, this is a situation where Jimenez can capitalize from a submission standpoint. But I got to tell you, Jason, I've been waiting for Holkett to be in the UFC because I watched that fight live and I was thoroughly impressed, because I think that his wrestling is going to be an absolute problem. The pace that he puts on people, I'm really, really, really backing Holkett here at 9,400. And you guys know, I tell you, I'm probably going to be 100% Holkett. This is how I play DFS. I just go down with the ship. Either I'm going to crush it and have phenomenal combinations, or my night's going to be done early. I'm going to have 100% of Holkett. There's no way I don't. 9,400, yes, it's pricey. He's a minus 425 favorite. His stats in the small sample size win on the Contender Series over Uriel, 14.75 takedowns landed per 15 minutes, and that's because he landed 6 in a second round fight that ended in 106 of round 2. So, Josh Holkett, to me, just the pace that he puts on people, he just cannot get underneath Jimenez. He stays on top. He makes the jiu-jitsu practitioner work. He starts letting them up a little bit. He drags them back down. He ground and pounds them. I mean, literally, Holkett can go out there and be the pace for this entire card and just sit there and get 130 points. And I wouldn't be surprised. I got to tell you, Jason. So I remember when Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman were all, fighting consistently, and I was playing DFS with you, and we were getting used to it, and we would love it. We would roster the shit out of him. Khamzat Chimaev is that new guy, right? Khamzat Chimaev and Merab 𝗛𝗏𝘁 are the new people that we love rostering. I think that 𝗃𝐻𝐾 is like an anomaly for the division. So give me him at 9,400. I think he goes out there. If he has a stinker, I'd be pretty surprised. But everything I saw in the Contender Series, made me really sit there and say, yeah, I'm going to back this guy. I'm going to flag plant him here, and I'm going to say that he's going to smash the slate. 9,400.
Yeah, looking at the props on the betting side, not much you really like out there. On 𝗃𝐻𝐾, -225 inside distance, -115 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐜 KO. Not really great. Maybe go prop game hunting on the rounds. Maybe if that round 2 maybe is interesting, that may be something to take a little bit of a sprinkle on. Next up, we have got a matchup in the women's strawweight division. That is Tisha Pennington taking on Denise Gomes. Gomes price at 8,900 DK, $19 on FanDuel. She's a -190 betting favorite. Pennington price at 7,300 DK, $11 on FanDuel. She is +150. Pennington, 16 of her 18 UFC fights have gone the distance with a record of 9-7 in those matchups. She's won back-to-back fights, of course, both via decision. No shocker there. DC Gomes, she's won 3 straight and 5-1 in her last 6, and 6 of her 8 UFC fights have gone the distance. And yeah, Pete, I expect this to go 15 minutes.
Yeah, I expect it to go 15 minutes, but I got to tell you, Jason, I don't get these odds at all. I legitimately don't get these odds at all. I think it's all age-based and not necessarily skill or competition-based. I think that we all want Denise Gomes to be, the new fighter within the division that we're rooting for and that we think is going to be on top of the world. And, she looks the part. She's skilled enough, but she's already proven that she can get outworked. She's already proven that she's a little untrustworthy. I mean, she lost to Mackenzie Dern. She lost to 𝗵𝗏𝘁'𝑻. She lost to Angela Hill. Meanwhile, Tisha Pennington has fought, high-level competition, losing to Mackenzie Dern, losing to 𝗵𝗏𝘁'𝑻. Outside of that, she's beaten Pinheiro, Esparza, Angela Hill, and Denise Gomes has beaten what? Elise Reed, 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐜𝐵𝐿, 𝐷𝗻𝐿 Mora, who's just a one-trick pony, and that's a solid wrestler. And 𝗷𝗏𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐽. So, I think that Tisha here as a value is very, very interesting. I'm really, really intrigued at 7,300. I think that she can go out there and match what's coming her way. I think this is going to be a kickboxing matchup, and it's one where I'm looking at the stats, and 4.78 significant strikes landed per minute for Tecia Torres, and Denise Gomes is 4.59. They're both attempting 9 significant strikes per 15 minutes. The takedowns are going to be just not even relevant. 0.54 for Gomes. 0.99 for 0.54 for Gomes for Torres. 1.19 for Gomes. So I just think that this is going to be a kickboxing matchup. And although we want Denise Gomes to be the new age and Tecia Torres to kind of be fizzling out, I don't think she's going anywhere, truthfully. So I'm going to back Tecia Torres here at 7,300.
Yeah, I get you there. It's just from a DFS perspective, I can't get behind Tecia Torres. I just can't. Look, I get the price point is low. I understand what the upside is with her, and that's just what scares the crap out of me. I'd rather go up 100 points and get to Muslim Salikhov at 7,400 just because of what that fantasy score upside could be. Then our opening fight of the night will be Miles Johns taking on Daniel Marcos. Marcos priced at 9,100 DK, $17 on FanDuel. He's -190. Miles Johns priced at 7,700 DK, $12 on FanDuel. He is +155. Miles Johns has lost back-to-back fights, both via decision. Most recently, a split decision loss in August against Masamoto. Was initially scheduled to fight last week against Gavrov. That one did not take place. Marcos, coming off decision loss in May against Montel Jackson, was previously scheduled to fight later on this month against Felipe Lima, stepping up in this matchup here. And 4 of his 6 UFC fights have gone the distance, Pete.
Yeah, I'm not backing Miles Johns here. I got to tell you. It's just I think that Marcos is in a great spot. Although I don't agree with this being the first, you said it's the first fight of the night. I don't really understand how it's the first fight of the night. I think that we could have put plenty of other fighters here. I think Marcos is somebody that the UFC should continue to try to build. He's really good. Just because he's not a finisher doesn't mean that he's not dominant. The only person he's lost to is Montel Jackson. Outside of that, wins over Yanez, Castaneda, Grant, no contest against Arichi Long, but was absolutely dominant early on. Miles Johns, very, very good. Low volume, though. Big thunderous puncher. Very good wrestler. Kind of lethargic, though. So A loss to Matsumoto, a loss to Lima. Prior to that, wins over Silva de Andrade, Gibson, and the no contest against 𝐼𝐤𝐳. So this is one where when I'm looking at the stats, I see Daniel Marcos at 5.11 significant strikes landed per minute compared to Miles Johns 3.38 based on their accuracies, basically 9.64 attempted for Marcos, 7.68 for Miles Johns. And Johns hits air so much. Like, he's so wild and loopy. Even in the takedown department, 0.99 takedowns landed per 15 minutes for Marcos, 0.46 takedown accuracy. He's attempting like 2, I think, just to kind of mix up the sport. Whereas Miles Johns will attempt more. He'll attempt about 5 per 15 minutes, but he really only lands about 1 per fight. So this is one where I just think that Marcos is in a sweet spot. Like, I like the value here of Marcos, and minus 185. He's at 8,500. Look at this, Jason. So when I made the sheet, Marcos was minus 185, and he's priced at 8,500. So I view the value on that to be tremendous compared to Uros Medic, who was minus 155, priced at 8,800. And when I made my sheet, that's all from DraftKings Sportsbook. I made it yesterday. So yeah, I just think, $300 difference from Medic to Marcos. The type of fighter Medic is. He's a finisher, right? Marcos is a decisionator, but at least I have more faith in him getting a victory over the very volatile Medic at 8,800, where I think Daniel Marcos can go out there and leg kick the hell out of Miles Johns, hit him with some good shots, and maybe get him out of there, but most likely just picks up a decision. And I just don't see a real ceiling for Miles Johns to have some success. So the pick is Daniel Marcos here at 8,500.
Yeah, I am in agreement there with the pick on this matchup. Of course, if you do have any questions, you can line those up right now in the YouTube chat. You can also do that in our Discord channel as well. I know some Discord questions have already come in, so we'll get to those here in a matter of moments. Of course, get to Sam's super chat as well. Let's get right into our straight up fight picks. Main event, I'll go Gabriel Bonfim, but don't mind Randy Brown in terms of DFS.
Yeah, no real conviction for me, but I'm going to go Randy Brown.
Can we go Joseph Morales? Then I'm going to go Uros Medic, but Salikhov might be my favorite punt play of the week.
Okay, I'm going to say Medic as well.
Give me underdog number 1, Chris Padilla. Don't like missing weight by 6 pounds.
I am going to go with Bonfim because I'm hoping it's strategic. So give me Bonfim here.
I'll go Tulio.
Tulio, big time.
Reese.
Yep, Reese.
I'll go Amil, but you got to like Emmers for DFS as well.
Totally agree. Going to go Amil.
I'll go underdog number 2 and Hani Barcelos.
Yeah, I like Barcelos as a slight lean.
Cavalcanti.
𝗏𝗏𝘁, big time.
Give me underdog number 3, Tisha Pennington, and by split decision.
Yeah, and this is one, right, where like I recognize that Barcelos DFS upside, probably not the best. Tisha Pennington, DFS upside, probably not the best. But some slates, right, you just need to find the winners because they're not always going to be big boom plays. So give me Pennington here also in a straight up pick.
And then I'll go Daniel Marcos. So I'll mention the first super chat that we got here from Sam. Highest leverage plays in each salary tier. So as you look at where ownership is kind of sitting here now, when you look at these 9,000 options, obviously, Yanez, he is on the slate, but obviously he is not competing here. So there's, really Jacqueline Cavalcanti is going to be the leverage play if you're looking to go there. But I just think when you look at that 9,000 range, you're going to be looking at those other options. I think probably in particular, you're looking at Reese and 𝗏𝗏𝘁 as 2 fighters you're probably targeting in this range.
Yeah, for me, man, it's 𝗏𝗏𝘁. But like Cavalcanti is just a contrarian play. It's probably going to go 15 minutes. Morales going up against a very volatile Schnell. Bonfim for me would probably be my, Ismael Bonfim would be my least favorite 9,000 option. Cavalcanti, I would like it because maybe Bueno Silva is cooked completely, and Reese, I just love how the way that he fights, and I don't think McVey's all that good.
When you look in the 8,000 range, the fighters that stick out to you with what ownership is sitting here on a Friday afternoon, Daniel Marcos and Denise Gomes are the two that stick out to you in terms of this. Kind of surprised that the Daniel Marcos ownership maybe sound a little bit more than what it is. But overall that, I mean, not really a ton of leverage plays in this range, but Gomes and Marcos would be the two.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Marcos is probably everybody will be putting him in betting, but for DFS, we're like, all right, he's probably going to get 70 something points, maybe 80. And I don't blame people. And then Denise Gomes, to me, just the 8,900 price tag makes absolutely no sense. I mean, she's a minus 180 and she is 8,900. Meanwhile, Daniel Marcos is minus 185 and he's 8,500. So I don't know. Just, I mean, we're comparing apples to oranges here, but I will say we have a bunch of duplicate or close odds. We have seen DraftKings in the past put the same salary, put like 3 fighters at 8,100, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why they want to do it this week. Gapping them out like this, they're kind of boxing me out of certain spots that I just don't want to get to.
When you look at in the 7,000 range, and I'll throw the 6K range just because we only have 2 fighters in the 6K range, the ones that you knew are going to have leverage, so one like a Jackson McVey is 7,900, clearly going to have value. But then, I mean, you got Barcelos has got some leverage, Miles Johns has got some leverage, Tisha Pennington, I'm actually kind of surprised her ownership is as high as it is. To me, I mean, obviously people are going to get the Salikhov, people are going to get to Randy Brown. I mean, kind of pretty much everyone outside of that is kind of, they've all got a decent amount of leverage.
Yeah, I would agree. It's just like, if you're getting a 6,000 fighter, you know, they're all going to have leverage. If you're getting a bottom end fighter, you know, like, this week is pretty cut and dry as to who has the upside in the low range and who has just the low volume win percentage.
Yeah. Let's go over to Discord. First question. Value plays underneath AK and a core 3 on DraftKings. When you look value plays, clearly Randy Brown you're going to look at 7,600.
Yep.
I wouldn't label him as a value play. I think it's more in that pump play aspect. That would be Muslim Salikhov at 7,400. I mean, you talked about it just a second ago. Barcelos, you know, you're concerned about the DFS upside there. Same thing with Tisha Pennington. Those would be the value that I would look at.
Yeah, for me, the value is personally it is Barcelos, Brown, and Pennington. As you mentioned, outside of that, like I could see Padilla winning. I could see Salikhov winning. I could see, you know, Christian Leroy Duncan winning. But like I like my chances with those 3 I mentioned in Barcelos, Brown, and Pennington.
In terms of core 3, I'll give you a core 3 here. And they actually fight back to back to back. Hyder, Amil, Zachary, Reese, and Marco Tulio.
Dude, I like it. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah. Let's see here. The next one. Let's get over. Sam's got some questions over here. Best top plays. The 3 I just mentioned. I don't know if I'd put Hyder Amil as a top play. I just think of, to me, that the salary savings you get on DraftKings really sticks out to me in terms of that. No one else really jumps out at me as like, I mean, probably Joseph Morales at 9,300.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm all on the 𝗏𝐻𝐿𝐼 train this week. So I think that the Morales makes sense, but 𝗏𝐻𝐿𝐼's upside.
Yeah.
We know that DraftKings favors wrestling, and I think that he has the highest upside wrestling-wise on the entire slate. So I think that 𝗏𝐻𝐿𝐼 is the true priority for me, and that's how I'm going to go. And then, like, it's going to be either the Hyder Amil / Jamall Emmers. So yeah. I just want that fight. That's how I want to build it.
Live dogs. I would throw Randy Brown in there. I would throw Muslim Salikhov. The Padilla one's an interesting one just because of the weight miss. Kind of makes you kind of wonder there. Jamall Emmers as a slight underdog. I think he's live. And I'd probably throw Tecia Torres in there, but I would almost be tempted to see what is Tecia Torres wins via split decision. That may be the sprinkle play for me this week.
Yeah, anytime women's MMA, man. Like I kind of did what I do last week. It didn't really work out, but I did a round robin of the women's fights to win, the women's fighters to win via decision. And I forget what happened last week, but I won a little bit, but I didn't win what I should have because there was a finish. So I'll probably end up doing that for this one. I mean,
that was Alan Carr got the
right,
stoppage.
exactly. Yeah, yep. Cavalcanti, Bueno, Silva here. The Gomez Torres, and then I'd probably do. There's some other ones that I can see going the distance, like the Daniel Marcos fight. Can see going the distance clearly, and Ricky Simone and Barcelos fight too. So I'll probably do some round robins there.
Yeah, I would say last week, man, really disappointed with Arlene.
She looked good, but for DFS, yeah, it wasn't there.
No, I just expected so much more out of her in that one. She just really didn't do it. I was just looking at so I looked at this would be a 12 fight bet if you took all the favorites tomorrow, plus 27,000.
Hey, some weeks we've seen it, right, where every single favorite wins. It wouldn't really surprise me.
Now that does not even include the Reese fight. I mean, if you just put $10 on it, brings you back 2,700. I mean, wouldn't be a bad day. You might be if it's 10 for 10 favorite city, you might be going, oof, might be time to cash out.
Yeah, that's like a college football or a college basketball bet. Like these chalky favorites all the time that they're favored by 20 points or 2 touchdowns or whatever.
I really don't like going more 3 or 4 legs on a parlay. That's just me.
Yeah, same.
I just feel like when you get over 3, to me, you may get some juicy odds, but the odds of it actually hitting are something in particular there. Let's move over to the rest of Sam's questions. Best inside the distance fighters. I would put Joseph Morales just because of who he's going against. Salikhov Medic, I think you got to both throw those in there. Tulio in there, Reese in there. Hokit, yes. And probably the winner of Amil and Emmers.
Yeah.
Best decision odds fighters. In terms of what, I think Daniel Marcos is one I looked at. He's plus 110. Pennington Gomes, I fully expect to go the distance. I think Simone Barcelos likely goes the distance.
Yeah, that's that round robin I was talking about.
Yeah, there's some good ones there. Favorite parlays for me, looking for value, just because there's so many minus 190 fighters. I might go something like a Daniel Marcos, Marco Tulio, and if I was going to go a third one, I'd probably go Hyder Amil, just to give you some good odds.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Next one, top pump place to me is Salikhov. Jason Pete special. Mine's the first fight of the night. I think you rostered Daniel Marcos, but Pete, I thought you made a really good point earlier. Probably a better betting spot in that situation than actually a DFS spot. Top captain and MVP. I think Joseph Morales is a very interesting potential MVP if, with the potential takedowns that you can get there. Something I would look at in terms of there. Road to the Man Series 6.5. So we got 13 fights.
It's a good number.
2, 3, 4, 5.
I think I'm gonna say 6.
Oof, yeah. I as I was just going through, I think I would say under.
Yeah, I think Agreed.
But I think that Sam, that to me, that is a very good number there. Next, Sam, I appreciate you. Another super chat from Sam says, what will be the core plays in FanDuel Incorporated comparison to DK without the MVP spot? So looking over at the FanDuel salaries, I mean, it's kind of tough to get away from the main event just because of what the pricing is there, 18 and 16 on both of those guys. I mean, the Med Salikhov, I think, is another one that's interesting on the FanDuel slate at 18 and 12. Marco Tulio at $16. I think it's really nice value for that price point in terms of there. Zach Reese isn't on the FanDuel slate, so you can't really go there. On FanDuel, you're probably going to need the winner of Amil and Emmers, who are at 15 and 14. I would imagine on the FanDuel side that the 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐜𝐵 is probably going to be a very popular play at $22. Maybe maybe get away from him a little bit in that spot.
Yeah, I would imagine like on FanDuel, it's similar, right? Like you gotta you gotta rip those heavy favorites, and then just the underdogs seem to be screwed up more than the favorites price wise over there.
I miss the days on FanDuel when you got rewarded for stopping a takedown. That's when it was really good.
Yeah, remember that? That was I liked it. It made everything different.
That's when I was a FanDuel player. That was because I was like, it made their game different, and also, if you knew you had the favorite who was a big takedown guy, that maybe you go for that underdog to get some takedowns to rack up some points. That was good back in the day. But of course, main card slated for 4 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Main card 7 p.m. Eastern time. Look, I mean, it's an Apex card. It's not the greatest of MMA cards. We're still another couple of weeks away. We got 2 more weeks away till UFC 322. I can't even think of what is the fight card next week. Actually, we have no UFC fight card. Actually, 322 is next week. Excuse me. For some reason, I was thinking it was 22nd. It is the 15th. Next week, Jack Della Maddalena, Islam Makhachev. Makhachev nearly a 3-1 betting favorite in that one. Also, you got Zhang Weili moving up to 125 pounds to challenge Valentin Shevchenko. I don't know how many people are super stoked about this matchup. I am. Sean Brady, Michael Morales. I think you could really make the case a winner there. Pratis Edwards, I think should be a really fun fight.
Yeah, that's a good card.
Yeah, I mean, you got Dariush and St. Denis going to kick it off. Bo Nickel headlining the prelims against Rodolfo Vieira. Kopylov versus Rodriguez. Tracy Cortez, Aaron Blanchfield. When I saw that fight, I was like, really? Okay. Sorry, Tracy Cortez. You're probably about to get butchered. But yeah, it's Kyle Dawkins back in the UFC as well. Really, God, thank God we're back to pay-per-views.
Yeah, I know. It's been rough. The Apex cards have been rough, but hopefully it's going to be a profitable week. Hopefully I don't have some, uncharted, never happened before type of BS in the co-main event to keep me out of the optimal lineups. But thank you guys for tuning in this week. Hopefully no more making rules up on the fly, even though I did agree with it, even though I had 100% Ante Dalia. Hopefully there's no more of that. If you guys can hit the like button before you head out, that'd be greatly appreciated. And, make sure you join that Discord and join our community contest.
Pete, why? Why are you tempting the MMA gods?
Bro, there's going to be some BS. There's going to be something. Yep.
Every week. This is just primarily from a DFS side and somewhat from a betting side. I wish I knew about 5-6 hours before the fight started who the referee was in every fight.
I know. I agree.
Because I think some refs have some tendencies.
They do. All refs. I talked about it to my class the other night. I said, listen, when I played baseball and I was a pitcher, I got to leave in a couple minutes. But when I was a pitcher, you knew the umpires. I knew the strike zone. I knew who called low balls or who had a low zone. You know what I mean? I knew who I could really paint the corners and I'd get those calls. I'm like, shit, that ain't no strike. But okay, I know to him it's a strike. So you just know all officials. We have tendencies. We're human beings.
The same thing in football. You know what you can get away with from the rest, where they're going to call, what they going to call. I would just say this. If I knew Chris Tognoni was a referee in a fight that I was targeting heavily, I'd be scared. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. Of course, as always, appreciate everyone who tunes in to every episode of the Fight HQ. Of course, also be sure to check out Pete's Patreon page to get all of the tools and data that he offers on his Patreon page. Link to that is in the description below. So that's going to do it for this episode of Fight HQ. We'll be back next week to get you ready for UFC 322.